All right, so we can't all be Tom Cruise from Cocktail, but who wouldn't want to be? You get to make drinks, have fun, listen to good music. You're the life of the party. People are coming and chatting with you. You're making money rather than spending it. I mean, that sounds pretty good to me, and to be honest, it's pretty awesome. That's right. I have been bartending now for 15 years and in the restaurant industry for even longer. Whew. Now, bartending is a fun thing to do, but like anything out there, it can have its highs and lows. But it is a good skill to have in your back pocket. Which is why in this video, I will not be going over how to do flair, because as you can see, I'm not that good at it. And there's plenty of people out there that are much more talented than I am. But I will be going over the basic skills you need to know how to bartend. Now, you may be wondering, well, why do I watch your video when there's plenty of other ones out there? Well, the main reason is because I'm not in any of those. But without any more tomfoolery, you get what I did there, tomfoolery, Tom Cruise? Let's get to the video. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Now, as I said, I've been bartending for many years, and through that time, I've been able to live all across the country and work and live in some pretty cool places. And through that time and experience, I've been able to work with many different people. I've taught many how to bartend and also trained them as well at places I've worked. And two main things I always come across when I'm teaching someone how to bartend or whenever they ask questions about it is, the first is, don't I need a bartender's license or certificate? And the answer is, no, that is a fake thing. That is something that bartending schools make up to get your money. Now, yes, there are pros and cons to bartending school, and I have my own thoughts on that, which I'd be happy to share with you in another video if you're curious to hear my thoughts on that. But in this video, I'm not going to do a deep dive into that because you're here to learn how to bartend. So just so you know, no, you don't need a license. Depending on where you live and what type of place you work in, you may need something called a food handler's certificate or card, or your tips training, or any of those type of trainings that the state has. Now, the second thing I always hear is, isn't it really hard? Isn't there a lot of things I need to know and learn? And the answer is, no, it's not. It's such an easy thing to learn how to do. Now, yes, like with any job, there's a lot to it. You have to, learn menus, learn how to use a computer, handle cash or credit cards, multitask, and of course, work with customers. And of course, because that's who you're making your drinks for. And like with all customers, there's usually something wrong. Whether their drink's not strong enough, it's too strong, it's too fruity, it's not fruity, it's not that big, it's too big. Who cares? There's always something, and you know who you are. But nonetheless, besides all that other things you need to know how to deal with and learn, there's really only two things you need to know to get your foot in the door. And the first thing is how to free pour, and number two is how to make different kinds of drinks and cocktails. So without any further ado, let's get to it. First thing I'm going to be teaching you is how to do something called a free pour. This is where you know exactly how much liquid is coming out the bottle when you pour it without having to measure it. Now, this is a very important skill to learn because many places will do something called a free pour test, where you'll pour liquid into a bottle and they measure to make sure you get it correct. When I've managed places in the past, if I've ever had someone interviewing for bartender, if they did not know how to do this, I personally wouldn't hire them because to me that shows they don't know what they're doing. The reason this is so important is because when you're making a drink, you want to make sure that all the ingredients are correct. Now, you may be thinking, well, do I have to free pour? And the answer is no. Many places actually require you to use something that's called a jigger. And using that is how you can always make sure your count is right. But it is still a skill you want to have to learn and master when you go into bartending. So the tools you're going to need to learn how to free pour is, first off, you're going to need an empty bottle. Preferably something like this, because this is your average bottle for your drinks or for your liquor that you're pouring. Before I go on next, what I'd recommend is having two of these. The reason why is because we're going to fill one bottle up with liquid, and then when we're pouring, once we pour it, we're going to then just pour it into the other bottle. That way you don't have to constantly refill it all the time. It will actually just be filled up because you'll be going back and forth. Next, you're going to be wanting to get something that's called a pour spout. This will be in the bottle or on top of it, so that way you know how much liquid's coming out at a steady rate. Next, you're gonna be using what I mentioned earlier, which is a jigger. And there's many different types. Here's a couple right here, but there's all kinds out there. I personally like this one the best. This is my favorite. Everyone has their own, so just pick what you like. The main thing when you buy one is you're gonna need to have one side of it be 1 ounce. The other side can be whatever measurement you want it to be. It doesn't matter, but one of the sides has to be 1 ounce. Next, you're going to need a towel because when you're new, it can get a little bit messy. That's what she said, in the sense of you might be over pouring and water's gonna get everywhere, so that way you don't have to constantly clean up. And finally, if you have 2 bottles, I'd recommend getting a funnel, so that way it makes it easier to transfer liquid into it. Now, once you have those, we can get to pouring. Now that you have all your tools, let's put them to use. So first we're gonna fill up one of our bottles with water. Then we're gonna take our pour spout and put it right on top of it, nice and snug, just like that. Then we're going to grab it by the neck of the bottle, which is right here. The reason you're doing this is because this is where you're usually grabbing it when you're pouring. So once you've learned how to pour here, you can grab the bottle wherever you want, but this is the most common way to grab it. Then when you pour it, you're gonna make sure that this angle curved part is a part that's coming down, because that way it's gonna be the smoothest pour. Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna pour it from here into our jigger on the 1 ounce side. Make sure that this is set on a flat surface, so that way it will measure out correctly each time. Now, what we're doing is we're pouring out of the 1 ounce, as I said. The reason why is because 1 ounce is the count I'm going to use for you. And the count is a count of 4. Every count is 1/4 of an ounce. So 4 equals 1 ounce. So when you pour, you're gonna count to 4. And then after that, you're gonna take your jigger and you're gonna pour the liquid into the other bottle, into the funnel. So that way, that one will be full and ready when you're emptied with this one. Now, you're gonna start off with either hand is the most dominant. You're gonna pour all the liquid out into it, into the jigger. Keep testing yourself, count 1, 2, 3, 4, and then go into the other bottle. Once this one's empty, then you're gonna take this pour spout, put it on the other bottle, and then you're gonna do the exact same thing with the other hand. You wanna make sure in bartending that you're able to be ambidextrous, because that way you can pour with either hand no matter where you are. Some places may have more left-handed bars or right-hand bars. Doesn't really matter. You wanna make sure you can pour with both hands. So you're gonna repeat this process until you're at the point where when you're pouring into the jigger, it's coming right at the top into something that's called a perfect pour, or at least close enough to it, where you're not spilling and it's not way under. Once you're able to do that, we're gonna move on to the second step. Now that you're on to the second step, what we're gonna do is you're gonna get another cup, and this cup is what you're going to be pouring the liquid into now. So you're gonna take the bottle and you're gonna pour it into the cup and you're gonna count to 4. Once again, 4 is 1 ounce. So you're gonna count to 4, pour it in the bottle, and then you're gonna test yourself and you're gonna pour that cup of liquid that you just poured into the jigger. Now, doing that, you're gonna see, okay, did I pour exactly 1 ounce? Am I a little bit under? Am I a little bit over? Where am I? You're testing yourself out. Now, once again, you're just starting, so if you're a little bit over or under, it's fine, but that's what you're gonna do. Once you're able to go through the whole bottle once on each side, then, and each side I mean with your hands, once you're able to do that, and if you're really close, great. If you're a little bit off, go back to step 1 and make sure you get that pour much more closer and accurate. If you're able to do this correctly and it's coming out to 1 ounce each time, great, you're on to the next step. Now, step 3 is where you're gonna now, once again, pour into the cup, but now whatever's other side of the jigger you have, where if one side says 1 ounce and the other side, let's say, says 1/2 ounce. So you're gonna test yourself now by counting to 2, because 2 would be 1/2 ounce. So you're gonna count into there, pour it into the cup, and then pour it into the side that's 1/2 ounce. If then you have, let's say, the 1 ounce and a 1/2 ounce side, now you can pour a 6 count, which would be 1.5 ounces, and you're gonna check that. So now you can try different measurements and see, does your count still line up when you're not counting to 4? Whatever, sides you have, make sure that now, no matter the count, you're able to pour it accurately and correctly. If you're able to do this with your left and right hand, then congratulations, you have now finished learning how to do something called a free pour, and you're that much closer to learning how to bartend. Congratulations. All right, the next step in learning how to be a bartender is knowing how to make some drinks. So you may be thinking to yourself, learning how to make drinks, there's so many out there. Like, I can't learn all these. What am I gonna do? Where do I go? Don't you worry, little buddy. I'm here to help you out. Now, to start off, yes, there's many drinks out there. Plenty I don't know, plenty everyone doesn't know, because it all depends on where you work. Do you work more at a fancy fine dining bar? Do you work at a tropical resort? Do you work at a speakeasy? Do you work at a club? You know, it all depends on where you work and really what kind of bartender you want to be. There's all types out there. So that's the cool thing right now. But really what you're going to want to do is have a good base of knowledge. So what I'd recommend is, first off, getting a bartender's book. That way you could start learning drinks and recipes, and you can always have it with you. I personally recommend Mr. Boston. That's why I started with. That way you'll learn some really classic drinks that have always been around. You'll learn some new ones and everything in between. If you don't want to get the book, that's cool. There's plenty of apps out there. There's plenty of other ways to learn how to make drinks. But I recommend at least getting a book. Next, what I'd recommend is learning at least, I'd say, 5 different drinks for different liquor categories, such as 5 vodka drinks, 5 tequila drinks, 5 rum drinks, 5 gin drinks, and 5 whiskey drinks. That way you'll have a good base of knowledge and you'll start to see what type of drinks out there, the different patterns there are, and really with making a drink, it's usually the same type of process and routine. And when I say that, what I mean is, I'll use a margarita for example. And before I get into the ingredients, yes, I understand there's lots of different ways to make a margarita. So I don't need any critiquing because I know there's lots of different ways. If you want to put the way you like to make a margarita, your favorite or the best, put down in the comments below. I'll probably learn a new way, who knows. But to make this margarita, the example I'm going to use is, first we're going to use tequila. And this example, once again, is to show you that it's a certain process and a very easy step pattern in making drinks, which pretty much goes for every drink out there. Whether or not you have all these in it or not, this is kind of the common way to make a drink. So first drink in a margarita, or first ingredient, would be tequila. So you have tequila, and that's your base, we could say. Next, we'll put triple sec in. Triple sec is a liqueur, which is not as strong alcohol percentage wise as like a tequila, vodka, any of that stuff. It does have some alcohol in it, but it also has a flavor to it. So it adds a little bit of extra, right? And then finally, you're gonna put in the filler, the topper, the mixer. And in this case, for the margarita, we're gonna use fresh lime juice and agave. Now, that's the same process with many drinks. You always are gonna have a base. Sometimes you may have a blend or a mixer, and then you're always gonna have a topper. And once again, that can change, but that's the same process. So once you start learning that, you're gonna start seeing this common way of so many of these drinks, like, oh, okay, this is how this drink starts, this is what goes in it. And it will become much easier to learn drinks the more drinks you start seeing, learning, and memorizing, and learning how to make. Now, a couple drinks I personally would recommend to learn would be a Long Island, a Martini, a Cosmopolitan, also known as a Cosmo, a Margarita, a Mai Tai, and an Old Fashioned. Those are some common drinks that, or at least in the US, that pretty much everywhere always have or people like to ask for. Also, actually, another one would be a Manhattan and a lemon drop. A lemon drop also is a cool little thing about that, is it can be a shot, a drink, or a martini. So another little knowledge for you. Now, once you learn this and you start learning your own drinks, congratulations, you now know how to bartend and have the basic skills at least. Now, you may be thinking, how do I get a job? Because so many places I go to, they say they want to see experience. Well, that's the double-edged sword. There's so many jobs out there. But here's the thing, you can lie about it. Yeah, that's a thing. For example, me, I had to lie to get my first bartending job. But I did have experience in the restaurant. So I did know how to serve. I knew how to use computers. So I would recommend being a server first. Unless you don't want to, you want to try to just be a bartender. That's another thing too. If you are curious how to do that, how to make the resume, or how to even just get your foot in the door, please comment down below, let me know. I'd be more than happy to make another video explaining what I did and the steps I took to get that. And then besides that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please let me know down below in the comments, things you liked, you didn't like, things I can improve on, because I'm making these videos for you. Mainly because, like I said, I've worked all over and I've helped a lot of people, so I figured this would be an easier way to reach a much broader audience. And I hope you guys liked it. So let me know, make sure to subscribe, and until the next one, I'll catch you later.